Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you may be watching this. I'm Jamie Moeller, and this is the Grad Connection. And again, my whole point in bringing these videos is to try to help graduate students navigate graduate education and do more than just survive. I want to see them thrive. And so, just a reminder that I'd encourage you to subscribe to the YouTube channel, connect on the Facebook private group called the Grad Connection. You can connect to me individually, privately, in Facebook and LinkedIn as well. My goal is to kind of, again, not just help new students, but all students. And I know many of you have commented that you found this useful, so that's good. I'm happy for that, and hope they continue to be useful to you as we enter into these summer months. And so today's topic, when I set out to do the Grad Connection, I kind of sat down and did a brain dump of topics and just kind of created a long list. And today's topic was one that I thought would probably be one of the last topics that I do, but this morning or yesterday, I can't remember when, I was sitting back and I was reflecting on what I wanted to do this week or what I wanted to talk about this week, and this is the topic that came up. And so, what I want to focus on are the five biggest lies that we tell ourselves. And I think every individual deals with a certain level of one or more of these lies, and I just want to kind of talk about them and try to encourage you that you're not alone in these things. But the first lie I think that we tell ourselves is that I'm not deserving. Not deserving of this, not deserving of that. Maybe I'm not deserving of this relationship. I'm not deserving of that promotion. I'm not deserving of that praise or that thanks or whatever. I think every person deals with some measure of not feeling worthy or not feeling deserving of the things that we may be blessed with. So that's the first one. Second one is as it kind of goes on the heels of that, is that I'm worthless. And that's kind of more of a severe version, I think, of the first one. But nevertheless, I think we all deal with some measure of feeling deserving, feeling worthy, and to an extreme, feeling worthless. Number three would be is that I'm not enough. I'm not enough for this position. I'm not enough for this relationship. I'm not enough. And then this kind of goes on the heels of something called the imposter syndrome. I would encourage, I think there every individual I think deals with a certain level of this, particularly as you take steps into positions or take steps into opportunities, jobs, or otherwise relationships, where you question whether you really have what it takes to succeed in those things. And I think it's actually a good thing when we get out there on the edge and we're actually doing things that are just beyond us, or even farther than that. But nevertheless, I think every person deals with a certain level of I'm not enough. Another one, number four, would be that I'm not lovable. That there's something in me that makes me unlovable, and so I think a lot of times the fear of rejection oftentimes makes us get this sense of I'm not lovable. And then the last one, number five, would be that I'm alone. That nobody else could possibly understand what I'm going through. Nobody's in this with me. I'm kind of having to trudge my way through whatever it is that I'm trudging through all by myself. Now, when I take all of these things, some of them, and again, a lot of times when I put these things together and jot down my notes, I know they probably come from a variety of sources. One source that I do want to point you to, and if you have never seen Brene Brown's Vulnerability TED Talk, last I checked, I think she's got two TED Talks out there. There may be more because she's become very popular both in book writing and other the types of research she does. But in the show notes, I'm going to put a link to the Brene Brown vulnerability topic, and in there she talks about, she basically studies vulnerability, connectedness, and all those kinds of things. She's a great one to read after, and so I can't say enough about her. But that's one place, like this idea of I'm not enough and these kinds of things. But I would also say, when we start thinking when these lies start coming up to us, um, essentially we fall into the trap of confirmation bias. So essentially, confirmation bias says that once I start to believe or perceive something in a certain way, everything else that I see, experience, hear, whatever, is filtered through that lens. And essentially, I collect things that confirm what I already believe. And so if I'm already telling myself that I'm not deserving or that I'm worthless or I'm not enough or I'm not lovable or I'm not alone, those are lenses through which we see the world, and it basically jades our perspective. It changes it. It's like looking through, tinted sunglasses that have maybe they're orange sunglasses. You see everything tinted orange because that's the frame through which you're viewing. That's the idea behind confirmation bias. So that's one thing that I think can feed these lies that we tell ourselves. Second is something called the law of attraction, and you could also call it the law of magnetism. And different writers, different authors have different ways to communicate this. If you talk about the law of attraction, it's by an author named Byrne. She's known for a book called The Secret and several other things. To some degree, for some people, the her series of books are not academic enough, but I think there is some value in it. But she talks about the law of attraction. John Maxwell, who talks a lot about leadership, has written tons and tons of books, scores of books, has a consulting service and all that. He talks about the law of magnetism, but they're both talking about the same thing, is that we attract to ourselves that which we focus on, that which we kind of, the things that we tell ourselves. Like if I tell myself that I'm not deserving, I may pass up on that promotion. I might even try for it. There may be a position, or if I feel like I'm not deserving, I may, somebody may come into my life as far as a relationship is concerned, and I'm thinking, well, I could never be in a relationship with that person, or maybe I feel like maybe I'm believing the lie that I'm not enough. It kind of goes hand in hand. I won't, get out on the edge and try anything new. So confirmation bias and the law of attraction and magnetism, and I will put references to Maxwell and Byrne in the show notes, but these things feed. It's kind of a spiral. It's a cyclical thing. And there are all kinds of places where this stuff can come from, right? As I was jotting this down, I know one of the biggest sources that can feed this or create or instill these kinds of beliefs in individuals. And a lot of times, I understand. I think a lot of people struggle with this. They just don't want to talk about it because it's actually it takes a lot of vulnerability to admit that you struggle with these thoughts or feelings. But I think it's a cyclical thing. If I don't talk about this thing, then the more alone I am, the less connection I have. But nevertheless, so sources. I think one of the primary sources is just your home life and growing up. And you can't pin all blame of anything in your life necessarily on your parents. I think that's an easy way out, and you have to own some of it. But you are nudged in certain directions by your parents and how you grow up. But if you have a parent who always kind of degrades you or pulls you down, those thoughts get fed into you at a young age, and they're very hard to undo to actually get out of you. Experiences growing up. Some of the most difficult experiences growing up can create these feelings or these thoughts in us. Other sources of influence in our life as we're growing up, some things that I wrote down are teachers or coaches or leaders that we have in our life, can either feed these types of thoughts, these types of lies that we tell ourselves, or they can actually help counter them. And so, particularly a lot of my focus is on leadership, and so one of the things I try to focus a lot on is trying to build teams and those kinds of things. And I think we can never provide too much praise and too much affirmation, too much encouragement. That's a really hard thing to do because it's easy to point out the negative, but oftentimes it's hard. And I forget who the author was that talked about trying to catch people doing good and trying to affirm those things. And then lastly, I think there's a lot of one of the major sources, or multiple major sources, if you want to call it that, philosophy, being around religion, certain religions, and certain perspectives on religion can create these lies. Education certainly can. And most notably today, social media certainly feeds these things because we're all the time, it seems that we're all always looking for the next like, the next dopamine hit, if you want to call it that. That's how Simon Sinek talks about it. But nevertheless, we're always looking to compare ourselves, whether it's on Instagram or Facebook or whatever the social media tool is. And the reality is, when you look at the stuff on all of the social media platforms, you are seeing someone's demo reel. You're not seeing the behind the scenes. A lot of people portray a face that makes it look like they have the wonderful life, but the reality is they have just as many struggles, and they probably tell themselves just as many of these lies as you do. The reality is just recognizing what lies do you tell yourself, and so how do you combat them? That's really what I want to get to. First and foremost is just the self-talk, the thoughts that go through your mind. Um, I truly believe that we can control the thoughts that go through our mind, and which ones we choose to mull over, which ones we choose to meditate on, if you will, the ones we choose to cultivate, to plant, to water, and to watch them flower and bring forth fruit. Right? Essentially, we have that choice of which ones we want to. And so you have to kind of put off these lies. You have to stop the self talk that might feed them. because to me, each one of these critters can take nest and root in your mind and make you believe all sorts of things. So first is the self-talk. Second is you may have to sever some relationships, um, or at least limit and create boundaries around certain relationships if you're in a toxic, caustic environment. Particularly graduate students. I mean, you experience this all the time. I'm sure. Well, I know they do because I talk with graduate students all the time who deal with any number of these kinds of things with major advisors, with professors, with whatever that feed these thoughts and make them feel insecure and as if they're not deserving that they're worthless and not enough. So severing relationships may be necessary. Find sources that you can feed on that build you. If you're around, every now and then it's kind of funny. I think we all recognize an encourager when one is in our life, right? It could be, a grandmother who just incessantly just continues to encourage you even in the worst of times. It could be a friend. It could be someone, that one person that comes in the office who's always in a good mood and just seems to lift everybody up every time around. When you find those people, grasp onto them because those kinds of sources can help you. Finding sources, reading sources, and other kinds of things that inspire you and encourage you and make you cause you to grow and expand, and actually can kind of quell some of these lies that we learn. Next, I would say, if necessary, find a therapist, find a pastor, find friends. Now, not every friend should be one that's going to be that close where you can talk about these real things. I'll be honest with you. My best friend, we knew each other for 20 years before we ever really got down into the meat of matters, where we truly looked each other in the eye and told each other our garbage and just hold each other accountable and talk about real stuff. And I think it's rare when you can find someone you can talk to at that deep level, but you need to find someone that you can do that with. And then lastly would be finding authentic connection, which I think feeds into that as well. Having authentic connection because a connectedness is what we all need and desire. Oftentimes, we talk about negative habits or bad habits, whatever they may be. Oftentimes, they're rooted in a lack of connection with other human beings. Even if you're a capital introvert like me, capital I introvert like me, you need connection. And so I know this is kind of a peculiar topic, or maybe it's not. I don't know. But it was one that was kind of on my heart and mind as I started looking through my book as far as topics. It's one that jumped out at me, and it would not have been one that I thought I would have done very early into these, given that we're only in the 16th week of videos. But nevertheless, it's kind of what was on my heart. So I will put in the show notes the various references. I'd encourage you to just take some time and particularly make time to watch it's about 20 minutes, Brene Brown's video on vulnerability. Please watch it. So with that, I'm Jamie Moeller, a Grad Connection. I hope you have a great weekend. Thanks for watching. Thanks for all your comments and feedback, and I do hope it's helpful. Bye-bye.